Okay, so Naomi, how are you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. I just finished Bite Me. I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about that, spoiler free, as well as some of your other stuff.
Awesome.
So let's start with Bite Me. Before I talk about your character, Chrissy, can you tell me about how you got involved in that project and when, whether it was pre-pandemic or basically just give a little insight on that process?
Sure. Yeah. It was pre-pandemic. If it not had not been for the pandemic, we'd be talking much sooner. Uh, but the way things are, we they had a what they call the Joyful Vampire Tour, in which they traveled around in an RV, showing this movie at various theaters, etc. And then the natural progression would be then to do the digital release, which is what we're here talking about today. But of course, COVID, so that was put off by a couple of years. But let's see, I got involved because Naomi, the other Naomi, there were three of us actually. The makeup
Three. I
girl is
thought there was
also a
only two.
Naomi.
Okay, there's three Naomi.
No, it was like it was when in doubt, just shout Naomi. No, but the star and writer who played Sarah is also a Naomi, and
Mhm.
she I guess she just kind of had me in mind when she was writing the script, and which is super flattering. Pepper was very much still in the zeitgeist then, but also we have a mutual friend, Natalia Fedner, who's actually a really accomplished clothing designer, who actually designed my dress in the vampire ball scene. So I think Naomi also kind of had in her head, like, maybe I can get to her. Like I seemed accessible, given our, mutual friend. But so yeah, they the way Naomi tells it, they had a bunch of staged readings and whatnot, and for whatever reason, the Chrissy character nobody was hitting it right, and then she kind of constantly got notes like Christy isn't working, and she's like, I know it's because Naomi Grossman isn't playing it yet. So
We
I was
need
really
another Naomi on set.
yes, right, there aren't enough Naomis in this production. No, so I was flattered that I apparently did the job, although it was a little daunting knowing that I had, I needed to fill my own shoes. Like they had these expectations of what, Naomi Grossman would do with the role. And, I just had to help that I, did what they were hoping for.
Knocked it out of the park. Okay, so you brought up the dress. So I kind of want to touch on I think in the movie they called it vampire drag.
Yeah.
Was all of the wardrobe and all of that stuff done by the mutual friend?
Not all of it, no. That particular friend is definitely worth a Google search. She has done everything from, J Lo in, some music video wearing basically like a piece of string,
Right.
to Lenny Kravitz at the Super Bowl, like you name it. She does really fine woven gold and silver, essentially. It's like jewelry, but
and
it's a
I saw like
dress.
you had the stuff on your face, or I think
Yeah.
you had some on your face, and then the the tall black guy had some on his face as well.
Yeah.
So was that by your
No,
friend?
still not the same girl. The point is, I'm trying to give Natalia a shout out because I wouldn't be here if it weren't for her ultimately. But no, we had another wardrobe design, person on set who also did a great job, although she used Natalia kind of sparingly, but mostly because Natalia is sort of not your everyday wear. It's like what you wear when you're J-Lo in a music video, or at a vampire ball. Otherwise, I would say a lot of the wardrobe actually came out of my own closet, or at least my own, just because it was it's a low budget movie. And so, they're looking for anywhere and everywhere they can get clothes. And so, it's not uncommon for them to ask, like, hey, bring some changes.
Right, because
So
you
yeah,
did so many different wardrobe changes in that movie. So that's why I was
yeah,
curious about whether any of that came from your own wardrobe.
it
You
did.
kind
It
of
did.
led right into that.
It's funny watching the movie. I was like, oh, I haven't worn that in a while. I need to,
Right, because
but
you filmed this over 2 years ago then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay, Google thinks I'm talking to them. So to get back to Bite Me, your character, you also had like a couple different hairstyles. I was curious if that's something that you put together yourself as well, or is that something that they asked you to do and then they put it, hair and makeup handled it for you?
Hair and makeup did that. That was the other Naomi, the third Naomi.
I forgot.
Um, yeah, no, I didn't have a lot of hair to work with, but I think they were just like, let's just have some fun with what we got, and that's what they did.
So speaking of hair, obviously this is kind of a tangent, but as a bald person, you shaved your head for the role of Pepper, right?
Yeah.
Is that something that you had planned to do from jump, or is it like you were considering the differences when it came to prosthetics?
I wasn't trying to do that. That did not come from me. But at the same time, I didn't want to lose out on the role. And I could tell that was going to be doing the makeup people a huge solid. They initially they played with the idea of a ball cap. But the fact is, we were trying to create this microcephalic character, so this like small head. And when I didn't have a ton of hair, but still, when you push a bunch of hair into a ball cap, it goes without saying your head would actually be larger rather
Right.
than micro. So there was no way to shrink my head per se, but they were able to obviously make my head as small as it can be, and then build out my body. And so that was the way they were able to kind of trick the eye. I was doing a fair amount of sort of, hunching over and some, gesture, a lot of, I was doing my part, but wardrobe did a fair amount as well, fat pads, etc.
Well, you had mentioned the hunching over, which reminds me back to Bite Me. You had the scene where you had the fangs in your mouth and you were like hunched over eating the cereal. I wanted to know how many takes and how uncomfortable were the actual fangs inside your mouth. Can you tell me a little bit about that process there?
Yeah, I don't remember how many takes, except that we were having to, again, it's low budget filmmaking. So there's not endless amounts of cereal, there's not endless amounts of milk. And you have to like ration, like exactly how do we want this? Do we want it soggy? Do we want it crunchy? And that scene is funny to me just because I am not working a bit at all. Don't get me wrong, I am one to do that. Like, if there's an opportunity for some humor, I'm gonna like push it as far as I possibly can. But in that particular case, I was literally just, they had those things in, and I literally just tried to eat a bowl of cereal. Period. There really wasn't any bit to it. So yeah, I think I ruined my, my supper that day, but yeah, it wasn't an excessively long scene to shoot per se either.
For sure. So I'm trying to focus on the things that aren't spoilers for the movie.
Oh,
but with all
yes.
this art
Spoiler
behind
alert, I eat a bowl of cereal.
exactly. So with all the art in your back, the behind you of Pepper, sorry. I wanted to know, was that your first, did you know anything about microcephaly before you had taken on that role?
None. And they didn't let us on until I had the role. When I auditioned, it was 4 to 5 feet tall, possibly malformed, actress. Right. That's it. That's all I had.
So can you tell me about your research process on it once you got the role?
Yeah, once I got it, it was really the makeup people that said, so you're going to look like this. And which means you're probably going to want to act like that, it goes without saying, one goes with the other. So yeah, I kind of fell down a YouTube rabbit hole on, researching Schlitzie specifically, since he was sort of the muse. Ryan Murphy's a huge Freaks fan. the 1933 film, that is.
I was gonna say
And
very, very old.
yes. So I rented that movie and kind of watched it on a loop.
So,
Yeah. And even, I mean, to the point where even when I was like in my trailer or on set, like about to go on, sometimes I'd like quick YouTube, like quick, like a quick refresher on Schlitzie so that I could just like nail it.
right. And you're the first person that they had reprise a character when they called you back for season 4 of American Horror Story. Did you know it was going to be Pepper again?
Um, I had an inkling, but it was that's actually interesting because when I first found that out, I was like, what? This has never happened before. It was unprecedented. But then it kind of changed as they were negotiating with my agents. It was like, we don't know if she's Pepper. And it was like, oh, well, that's sort of different. You know what I mean? Like I have much more negotiating power if I am the only one in the world that can play this part. But then interestingly, they when I got to set, so I'm already, the negotiating's done. I'm in New Orleans about to get my head reshaven. And I remember Ryan Murphy saying, so are you Pepper or, maybe I'm just a pinhead, and I think the idea was that if they brought back this, if the seasons are indeed connected, does that make us no longer a mini series? Because they like their Emmys, right? I mean,
Right. Yeah. Completely different
and
category.
yeah, it changes everything. And so I think they were a little concerned about like what would that mean. But and so actually, if you watch the show, if you watch those first couple episodes, they never even refer to me as Pepper. They call us the humorous pinheads. And so as it went on, obviously it came out. Yeah, indeed, I was Pepper, but even
That's
I
so
was
cool
like,
though.
let's decide this now. Like, if they're about to shave my head, like, I don't know. Like, you tell me.
So
You're
since
the
then
boss.
you've played other characters in the show too in
Mhm.
different seasons. If you had the chance to do Pepper again, would you prefer to do that or take on another
Oh my
additional role?
God. Yes. No, I mean, all of the above. Are you making me choose? I don't know.
I'm not your agent. I can't make you choose. I'm sorry.
I would say no. I mean, it in a way it bums me out that it's like not a series, a returning series, because
Right.
this is a role that I would do forever. Like it's so much fun, and it's just so creative and playful and improvisatory. I don't know if that's a word, but
It is now.
it is now. And so
Provisatory.
yeah, I really I have way more fun being Pepper than I have being Naomi number 2. But but that said, I was thrilled when they called me, obviously, to play the Satanist in Apocalypse, and of course in the spinoff series just recently. So it's great. It's awesome to just be at the big kids table. So I don't care what name they put on the name card. I'm just happy to be there.
Is horror your main thing? Because I like when I was looking through research for you, you had stated Lily Tomlin as like one of your the people that inspires you. So I was curious if horror is what you had aimed for when you first started this career or pursuing it.
Not at all. Like I'm just like a comedy girl who slipped and fell on a banana peel down a horror hole. But no, I mean, I love it. At the same time, I always had my sights set on SNL. Lily Tomlin's a huge inspiration to me, but everything that is sketch comedy in general. I worked for many years at the Groundlings, which is sort of a breeding ground for SNL and that type of work. But what's interesting is, Pepper, it is like one of those Groundlings characters. Like she's really big and over the top, and it's just a matter of sort of calibrating her. You know what I mean? Like she could totally be kicking it with Toonces the cat and the Coneheads. Let's face it, right? but she's not. She's in the asylum, and with a really heartbreaking backstory. So it's like it's a matter of just sort of like calibrating that to belong in your environment. I think like I said, for so long I had my blinders on, thinking I'm just do sketch comedy, and what I needed to have been thinking is I do big characters, and big characters exist in all genres. In fact, I would say they exist as well in comedy as they do in horror. When you look at some of these horror icons and tropes, we've got a guy with knives for hands, and his hockey mask face, and like these are over the top characters. They're just not necessarily funny. So
well, and Chrissy, the character you play in Bite Me, is very over the top. So that's what I'm thinking as you say this stuff. Like, she stands on the chair, she's the loudest person in the room. Did you bring a lot of your own, like, I guess you talked about you were with the Groundlings. Did you bring that over the top sketch comedy with you and put that into the role, or is that something they asked you to add in for the movie?
I played as close to myself as I've ever played when I did Chrissy. I think, and it's really a matter of like, what does the role require? And as I read it, I was like, this is kind of me. I mean, I don't get my energy from blood.
But you do eat your cereal like that.
Right. No, but I mean, I am kind of this firebrand boss bitch. And, Naomi had me in mind when she was writing it. And when I read it, I had me in mind too. Like it's kind of it's an easy fit, that said, I do enjoy playing like as far away from myself as possible. So this definitely felt like as new to performance, the fact that my face is not covered in prosthetics, and that I'm basically the lens, the Chrissy lens, through which I perceive the world is not actually all that different than my own, was a little scary, because I was, it felt almost like reality TV, except thank God it was not. I was delivering dialogue.
Right. Yeah. You're just being a badass bitch in a scripted badass bitch.
Yeah.
I totally get it. So we talked about, this, obviously you did that a few years ago. We talked about your past with American Horror Story. As far as the future, what kind of things do you have coming up that you would like to promote, or kind of have listeners and readers look forward to?
Well, it's funny, we talk about like this upcoming movie, and I'm like, wait, when did we do this? But it's obviously because it's finally, thanks to COVID, we're finally seeing it, digitally everywhere, come February 8th. But so now I have to like go back in my head, like, what might be coming out? Because you never know, these days, COVID, like,
right.
I did my part, like I've been wrapped, like who knows? But I can tell you that I did a movie in the pandemic called Replica, starring Mickey Rourke, little COVID brain there. And so that I would imagine would be upcoming. But
right.
These days
I
could be talking to you in a few years about that one. Again, it's also independent filmmaking, and so you're just waiting for a leprechaun to finish it. I know, speaking of which, I've got my own project that I've written during the pandemic called American Horror Story, which, again, I'm just that pot of gold, like, will put us to the finish. Right now, it's written, it's memorized, it's blocked. We're just, need some financing. But it's basically like a 1-hour comedy special. So, hoping to have that streaming on everywhere as well.
Oh
If
yeah.
not, you know, in theaters.
Okay,
So
awesome. Is
live.
there, before I let you go, then do you have any social media or websites that you'd like people to find, follow you and find you at?
Yeah, I'm at Naomi W. Grossman across all platforms.